talking about everyone's favorite topic today, erectile dysfunction.
Yeah.
So, tell me about erectile dysfunction.
I know lots about erectile dysfunction, not personally, but I know lots about erectile dysfunction. We're going to make this one a little bit funnier because it's already an uncomfortable topic. Nobody wants to talk about it, but we are going to get into the nitty gritty and we're going to let you know all about erectile dysfunction today.
Exciting. So, tell me all about erectile dysfunction.
So erectile dysfunction is one of those things that basically you can't get an erection. Surprisingly, most of our patients are male that this afflicts.
Really?
Yeah, so we see a lot of males. There's a couple different reasons why you can have erectile dysfunction. So there's a couple things. There's libido. There's not wanting to have sex, and so that can be caused by depression. It can be caused by different medications. It can be caused by different things like that where you're just kind of not in the mood. The other thing is, what's the phrase? The heart is willing, but the mind isn't. There's the other thing where you want to have sex, but it just won't work. And so you can't get an erection. This can be caused by a couple of different things. It can be caused by prostate cancer, removing the prostate. This can be caused by multiple procedures for bladder cancer, different things going up the urethra. There's lots of things that can cause erectile dysfunction. And unfortunately, as you get older, it stops working like it used to. And so you start getting that thing at about 40. I wouldn't know, I'm 43. But 40, 50, it starts not working quite as well. And so very, very common complaint. There's a couple different ways of treating it. There's a couple different ways of diagnosing it. We're going to kind of get into that. So how do you diagnose erectile dysfunction?
Well, that's a good question. As you might, anyone ever thought about that question, right?
Yeah, why don't you tell us about the postage stamp test?
The what?
The postage stamp test. See, Dr. Omar
Not
here.
familiar with that.
Dr. Omar here is too young to know what postage stamps are. So you
I
guys
know
are
what a postage stamp test is. How does that have anything to do with erectile dysfunction?
Listen. So postage stamps back in the day, they weren't sticky. They used to come in a big roll, and you used to take off the stamp and you used to lick it.
Okay.
And then you used to put it on the side of the letter. Right?
All right.
So that's how you would do it. So one of the tests that you do for erectile dysfunction is at night, you take those postage stamps, you take about 5 or 6 of them in a length, you lick them, get them all wet, and then you wrap them around the penis. When you wake up in the morning, if they're broken, that means that you were able to have an erection at night. That's one of the tests for erectile dysfunction. We do not do the postage stamp test anymore. That is something from a long time ago that I remember. And I unfortunately went to medical school a little bit older, and I remember somebody in our class being 18 and saying, "What's a postage stamp?" And I thought, okay, I'm a little old here. But that's one of the tests. So we don't do the postage stamp. So how do we diagnose it? Seriously.
Yeah, so that's a good question. So as you can imagine, there's not really a great, blood test or imaging test to diagnose erectile dysfunction. And as much as you might be upset about this, we do not attempt to give somebody an erection.
No, we do not.
I don't. I mean,
I do not either.
Right,
that is not part of the exam.
So if you tell us that you're having trouble getting an erection, we're going to believe you. But with that said, like he said, there's a whole range of types of erectile dysfunction, causes for erectile dysfunction, severities of erectile dysfunction. So it's not just, hey, I have trouble, getting an erection, give me some Viagra, right? So, we'll ask you, do you ever wake up in the middle of the night with erections? Because that's a whole different cause for erectile dysfunction than if you can never get an erection when you want to have sex. So there's a whole litany of causes, but in general, it's, the inability to get an erection when you want to perform sexually.
Yeah, so now there is a physical exam on it, and when you get the disability, sometimes you will come to the interviewer, and we do look at the penis, we look at the testicles, we look at the scrotum, we do a prostate exam. However, the veteran can say he doesn't want it, and I have honestly never found anything on the exam, so whenever they say, I don't want the exam, I'm like, good, because I don't want to do it. So, but there is an exam. We just don't usually find anything on it. So it's all based on history, is what it is. So one of the questions, though, when you were talking about severity, is one of the things is we try medication, we see if it works or not. So why don't you tell us a little bit about what are some of the treatments, without getting into anything too specific, but what kind of treatments do we have for erectile dysfunction?
So I'm pretty sure everyone's heard of that little blue pill.
Yeah, of course.
You know, Viagra. This guy in Thailand sold me one, and it works fantastic. Yeah, so there's a whole litany of treatments, right? So it depends on what the cause of the erectile dysfunction is, right? So if it's determined to be psychological, mental health. Therapy, treatments, stuff like that will help with erectile dysfunction. But in general, medications like Viagra, Cialis are kind of our go-to, and that's our first line, right? And there's, if that doesn't work, there's injectable medications.
Nobody wants that injectable medication because it does not go in your hip.
Correct. If you can imagine, it doesn't go in your arm either, right? It does go into your penis, so most people don't want that, right? But there's pumps, right? There's all sorts of treatments that you can use to help achieve an erection, right?
So there's a couple different things too. So there you can get an erection from medication or from just regularly having an erection, but that doesn't mean that you can actually have sex. I know you haven't really thought about it too much, but when you start doing these disability claims, you start thinking about it. You can have an erection, but not have the erection last long enough, or be try not to be too graphic. You can have the erection not be sufficient enough to actually have penetrative sex. So there's a couple different things. So one, can you have an erection? Okay, if you can you maintain an erection so that you can actually have sex? So that's the other thing. And then if you can't, then that brings us down to a different thing. So there are kind of three shades of it. One, nothing works. Two, I can get an erection. Or three, I can get an erection, but I can't have sex. And so that's kind of where it brings us down to. A lot of the times, though, what we see, though, in this kind of stuff is erectile dysfunction is pretty popular. I mean, or not popular, it's pretty common. I mean, it's never popular.
I root for it every weekend.
Nobody ever wants it. Very, very, very common. I mean, they have a NASCAR, right, Fred? I think Viagra has a NASCAR, and so so it's out there. It's very prevalent. So the question is, why exactly would the VA give you a service-connected disability for erectile dysfunction if it's so common and everybody's got it?
So that's a good question, right? So the whole goal is to, number one, the question is it service connected, right? So was there some sort of event while you're on active duty, be it PTSD or another medical diagnosis that caused you to have erectile dysfunction? And that's very common, right?
Yeah.
Because like you said, most people don't develop erectile dysfunction until older in age when they're out of the military, right? But there's a lot of common diagnoses that people get while they are active duty that are service connected that can be a cause of erectile dysfunction. So like high blood pressure, a lot of the medications that you take for high blood pressure can be contributing factors to erectile dysfunction. That's important. And also erectile dysfunction, when you think about it, is loss of an organ. So the VA sees it as loss of an organ, of the use of an organ. So that's why it is very important.
Yeah, no, it definitely is. And I see it a lot too. We try to do these things where we try to see how is this connected to your military service? A lot of different things too, bladder cancer, prostate cancer, some of the other things you get from Agent Orange and exposure and some of the stuff like that will, the treatment to save your life will cause these side effects. And so, it's pretty, most of the time people don't want to talk about erectile dysfunction. They want to kind of keep it quiet, but there is treatment for it. And, you should at least try to get treatment just to see if, it can be improved. So that would be my advice for the veteran.
Yeah, don't suffer in silence, right? It's not a fun thing, despite what he said, right? It's not a popular thing to talk about. There's, as much as we kind of joke, we are professional. Majority of doctors are professional. When you come and see us and you tell us something, that's sensitive and it can be kind of embarrassing that, we've seen it hundreds of times. So, don't be embarrassed about that. So.
Yeah, and it's funny too because some of the things that you think, man, doctors don't want to talk about it. I love talking about poop. I love talking about erectile dysfunction. I love talking about, vaginal secretion. It doesn't matter. It might be something that you are embarrassed to talk about. Doctors talk about it all the time, especially GI doctors. All they do is talk about poop, all that, and so don't be embarrassed. Come on in and talk to us.
Yeah, over dinner every night. Erectile dysfunction, it comes up every night.
Yeah, surprisingly. So now is the point in time. We talked a little bit about erectile dysfunction. We talked about how it gets treated, how it gets diagnosed, all that stuff. We come to the point where we have a random question. Okay, my daughter usually does this, or she has for the last couple of videos. My daughter is not in the room right now because I did not want to talk about this while she is here. As much as we enjoy talking about things, I did not want to talk about it in front of my daughter. So I am going to read the question here. Once you get older,
I'll fill her in later.
Once you get older, not only erectile dysfunction, but you start to lose your vision. So let's see here. So what is your favorite international food?
Oh, well, this might be a little recency bias, but I just got back from Ireland, and we're talking about erections here, and so I did get one from the shepherd's pie. It was amazing.
Yeah, it's actually funny. I am not that far off. I was going to talk about meat pies. Why we don't have meat pies in the United States, I have no idea. But every time I go over to England, Scotland, Ireland, I cannot get enough of meat pies. I don't know why we don't have them in the States. Fantastic.
Yeah, I usually go with cream pie. It's just my favorite for dessert, at least.
Yeah. Well, so that's it. So we're talking about erectile dysfunction. Like I said, not everybody's favorite subject, but hopefully we made it light enough that you guys kind of got something out of that. So we are the disability doctors. We're trying to put these series together. We try to put them together so we can talk to veterans about VA claims. And so in order to get these things, to get these videos out there, we need people to like and subscribe. Click on the website, click on the email, send us questions. Love to hear from you.
Yeah, if you have any questions or any topics that you want covered or just anything in general for us, feel free to email us.
Yeah, love to hear from you. Once again, we're the disability doctors talking about erectile dysfunction. Thanks for coming along.
Thanks.